How's it going, guys? Welcome to Audio Addiction. We have Archaeologist back in the building with us again, and he can say his name and what he does.
Hey, what's up? My name is Kyle. I do guitar and vocals and general music stuff for Archaeologist.
There we go. Well,
And yeah, happy to be back here again.
Kyle, like I said, Kyle, we were talking briefly off camera about how long it's been, and it's been a whole 2 decades. No, I'm kidding. It's been a very long time, and there has been a lot change. There's a lot that has changed, not only like in life, but also just generally. So how have you been? First of all, I've been asking a lot of my guests this because we're all in quarantine, so I figured that is an appropriate question to ask. And what has happened since the last time we talked, which was like 2 years ago?
Sure. Yeah, I've been good. I feel like apart from the general like air of depression that's in the world right now,
Yeah.
I feel like apart from that, I'm doing pretty well with the whole quarantine thing. Like honestly, staying at home suits my lifestyle pretty well. I mean, so like I was lucky to have a job that kind of works just fine working from home anyways, so I'm still doing that. And shortly before the whole coronavirus thing started too, like I kind of switched back to a mostly solo project mode for Archaeologists anyways. So I'm like, I was joking that we quit doing shows before it was cool. So like for us, like we weren't playing shows when the whole lockdown thing started anyways, so I would say we're pretty lucky to have been not as affected, by the whole thing as most musicians.
Yeah,
That's kind of the phase I was going into anyways, so I'm like, okay, now I can just sit at home and work on music all the time and I never have to go outside. I'm like, okay.
You're like,
yeah.
That's musician. I feel like that's musicians in a nutshell. They're like, I feel like they're very like. I'm not gonna generalize everybody, but I know like even for myself, because I do this music thing. I feel like I'm like, okay, I'm cool at home, but there's like certain times in my life where I'm just like, I need out. Like I need the world. Like
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I mean, I miss shows like everyone else, but again, I can sit at home and I don't really go crazy or anything. I can find plenty to do to entertain myself.
Well, I mean, you keep pumping out the music content, so I feel like I gotta give you props on that. Just as myself doing all this YouTube stuff, I feel like for me sometimes it can be hard to find inspiration or do stuff when you're stuck at home. But I feel like it's also like more of the time to be like hone in, focus on what you want to do, and like grow it. So obviously you had mentioned something about, it's transferring into a solo act again. I know for a brief stint you were a band. So what
Right.
made you kind of convert back to a solo artist stance? Because that I feel like you were a solo artist, I think when I had you on 2 years ago, or you were kind of transferring into a band, then you did the band thing for a couple years, and then now you're back to solo artist. So, what was the cycle of Kyle's thought process from 2 years ago previously to now 2020 Kyle?
Sure. Yeah, so I guess first of all, I shouldn't call it 100% a solo project because I am still working with our bassist George on some stuff. So he's still in the band, just he's got other projects too. He's in another band as well. So like it's like we'll be working on some stuff together with the little half band that we exist as right now. But I'm also working on stuff on my own in the meantime, kind of how I used to.
Sure.
It's just kind of just whatever works for that. So I don't want to make it sound like he's excluded from this either, right? But I'm like, hey, do you mind if I like work on some stuff on my own? He's like, I don't care, go do it. So that's why I say like mostly solo project mode. But with the intention that we will be going back to a full band at some point, and George, our bassist, is still a member of that.
There we go.
But yeah, I guess the reason things have switched has all been pretty natural. I mean, I think last time we talked, well, I guess to back up a little bit, so I did start it as a complete solo project for years, like not playing shows, not doing anything with other people. And then I think last time we talked was the first time that I didn't have like an official band and we weren't playing shows, but I did make an album with other people. So it's like instead of programmed drums, I had my buddy Ciro from Demon and Me and Mantra, his other band at the time. He played drums on it. His bassist from Mantra, Lorenzo, he played bass, so it's like I had kind of a makeshift band of friends that made like a real album with real drums and a bass player that actually knows what he's doing compared to me doing bass myself.
Program bass, yeah.
Right. And so we were kind of in a band form at that point, but that wasn't the band that became like the live group. But at that point I was already kind of setting my sights and like, okay, let's do shows, let's get people together,
Sure.
so that ended up happening, so we had a couple of guys doing that, and we played shows for like, I want to say it was like 1 or 2 years a
Yeah.
span that time, and record stuff together too. But then basically just two of the band members quit to go do other things, and so I was like, okay, well, time to kind of go back to like work on the stuff on my own, which again I don't mind. It's I like working in both stages, but I'm perfectly comfortable working by myself too. So I'm like, okay, I'll just work like this for a while, and that's kind of where we're at now.
Yeah,
And
you're
then
just
obviously,
adaptive to the situation. Yeah.
sure, sure. And this is obviously not the time to try to start up another live band, right? Not at
Yeah.
this exact instant, at
Yeah.
least. So I'll be chilling like this for a while, and then once shows come back, if I can find the right people, because we need a drummer and a lead guitarist that can play all the stuff that I don't want to play live, basically. Like, so he has to be better than me. That's the qualification for
There
sure.
you
like, I'm like, you have to make it look like I can play my own songs by playing all the hard parts that I
By
can't
playing it
actually
better
play
than
on
I
stage.
can.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll just do the easy stuff and then sing the songs that have
Yeah,
vocals.
I'll just be singing and doing the chords, and you just do the like the insane shredding that I definitely did, but
Right.
don't want to do live.
Exactly.
Well, that's really cool, and like I said, it's interesting that I like kind of jumped the gap on that whole thing, and then now we're back to square one. But I think I obviously I want to commend you for making the smarter choice to not try to put a band together in a quarantine situation. Not that I feel like you would have anyway, because I feel like you have a high level of intelligence to not do that. But
I mean, where would we play? It's like, you guys want to jam in my living room? And that would be the extent of what we could do anyways. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
How have you found like the inspiration in quarantine time? Like, do you feel like nothing has really changed for you in terms of like writing music and like being able to come up with stuff, or do you feel like it might be a little bit easier since you're like, now I'm confined to my house, so I can write more material and don't have to be like, oh my god, I gotta go do this, or I gotta go, I know you have a dog, and like be like, oh, I gotta
Mhm.
walk my dog and take the dog to the park, which I mean I'm sure you do anyway, but
But that's the only reason I leave the house.
that's the only reason.
I walk my dog and I go to the grocery store, and that's
That's it.
literally the only reasons I leave my house.
But do you find that you've had more inspiration now that I wouldn't say that you have like an obligation to write more music, but just like having the ability to be like, oh, well, I literally can't do anything else, so let me just like work on the next record or EP or whatever.
Yeah, and I feel like I do agree with that. I feel like it's not so much that I'm like finding new ways to get inspired, but just that I do have more time on my hands. Like I find that lately, because obviously, not spending time going out to shows, going out doing other
Yeah.
stuff, and on top of that, I'm working a little bit less hours at work and not commuting than what I usually do. So I just
Yeah.
find myself with more time during the week. So like, I feel like proportionally, I'm actually spending about the same amount of my time that I normally do on music, but because I have more free time, it ends up being more. So like because I'm spending more time playing video games than I usually do too. But it's like, I can do both of those things right now with what's going on.
I feel that. I feel that so much, Kyle. I see the GameCube controller in the backgrounds, and I know, I know you jokingly said that you were going to be a Melee stream on Twitch. So I feel
I
like,
actually am. I have been doing that actually.
I know you also have been doing that, but I thought you were just like, yep, we're canning Archaeologist. It's no longer going to be a band, and now
That's right.
I'm just gonna be a Melee Twitch streamer now. Which
Yeah.
listen, if you go that route, I fully support you. You do what you want. That's the lovely creative liberties we have doing this.
That's like isn't Logic doing that? The rapper Logic.
Yeah,
I heard he just quit rapping and he's gonna do like Twitch. I'm assuming games, but
I would assume. I think he is, but like I just find it funny that now, like, especially him, he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna release a record and then I'm done. Like that's it. Like good for him. I mean, I'm not gonna knock it. Like that would be goals right there. But yeah, like I obviously found more time to play video games, which is always a plus. And I know, speaking from a fellow video game player myself, I know that I've had more time to do some stuff. So I've been playing a ton of Animal Crossing, and I've been just like, I'm addicted now.
cross those animals, bro.
I'm crossing those animals. But I guess the next thing would be, Kyle. Obviously, you had come on for a reason. You have, something coming out that I believe, if I've read the information correctly, that you've worked on it already and you're remastering it, or maybe you can
Yeah,
speak on it a little bit more.
yeah, I can explain. Because yeah, what you're referring to is one of many things that I'll be releasing within the next like 6 months to a year. Because the next three things I'm going to release are completely done. Like right now, just currently chilling in the private section of my Bandcamp, like just completely done. Just have to hit the button and release it,
It's
basically.
got, yeah. Let the dogs
Yeah,
out.
right. Unleash the hounds.
Not my sounds.
But yeah, the first one of those things is a remixed and remastered version of an EP that I put out in 2015, which is the Volume 2 EP for Archaeologist. For me, that was like the first thing I recorded, like among any of my projects, that I felt like was actually good. I'm like, okay, this is something that I actually feel totally good about. It doesn't feel like just I'm practicing for something else, or like, oh, I'm kind of learning stuff. I mean, I was still learning stuff at the time, but I still stand by the songs is like what I'm getting at, I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's like that was the first thing where I could look back on it a year later and be like, hey, I still like all of this, and I was like, I don't want to change anything in the songs.
Yeah.
But the one exception to that is the fact that I mixed it myself at the time, which I think it sounds okay, but it doesn't sound professional by any means, especially because like, I mean, I could do it better myself today, but it still wouldn't be like pro. But basically, just my thought process was like, okay, I have this thing, this Volume 2 EP from 5 years ago. I still like the music, but I wish it sounded a little bit better. And I have all of the project files and all the stems and everything because I recorded it myself at home. And I would say that lately, like starting last year, I think that Archaeologist's music and mixes in general started sounding a lot better, specifically because we started working with somebody else to mix it. And so that's this guy, Nick, from the Bay Area, who works with a lot of bands around here. I'm sure you've heard bands that he's worked with because he did Demon and Me's albums. He did Sea in the Sky, if you know them.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
He did Cyborg Octopus, which is my bassist other band.
Yep.
A bunch of bands around here.
I also
He's
know
like,
that too. Yeah.
yeah, he's like the local guy to go to, basically. And
Shouts to Nick.
yeah, shout outs to Nick. And I feel like he's really leveled up our sound for sure, just working with him and having him produce everything. And so basically, I was like, hey Nick, you got some time on your hands, like why don't you, which is a lie because he's always busy, but I was like, why don't you go and
why don't
like
you just throw something else on top of your workload that you already have a lot of? Let's do that. No, kidding.
Right. I should just start booking him like for 1 month out of every year, like before I have anything. I'm just like, remember, I'm gonna have some new music for you next year and the year after that and the year after that.
Good for him. Though. He's gonna have some steady work.
Right. Yeah, I'll try to be a good client.
There you go.
But yeah, so basically I was like, hey, do you want to take like the raw DI and stem tracks and MIDI files that I have from this and then just make it sound good, reamp everything, redo the drums, just take that and just figure it out so that I don't have to figure out how to remix it myself. And so that's what he did, and I think it sounds way better now. It's like the same recordings from back then, but just like the completely new guitar tones, new drum tones, clearer sounding everything. So
that's awesome, and I'm glad you're doing it, because I'm pretty sure that was how I found out about your music. Obviously, I found out through Odysseys, but like I was like listening through back catalog stuff, and I was like, yeah, this is really cool too. I was just like, why didn't I talk to Kyle about this when he came on? And then I was just like, oh well, we'll talk about it at another point in time. I'm sure he's gonna come on again. And then we waited another 2 years, and now we're here.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks, man.
I like I said, I went back and tried to listen to a bunch of like older stuff that you had released and stuff. Do you plan on possibly doing that with any other material, or do you feel like everything else now at this point you're like, you know what, this is solid, I think I'm going to keep it where it's at? Because as you mentioned, I think you have Volume 1, obviously. You wouldn't just jump to 2, but like, do you feel like you would ever maybe take one of those and just kind of like remix that too? Or
Yeah,
was this a one-time
question.
deal?
I would say I probably won't do that for other releases for a couple of reasons. Because so the next one after Volume 2 was Odysseys, and that one still sounds fine to me. Like
Yeah,
I don't think it's the very best mix, but nobody's ever complained about the mix either, and it sounds fine to me. I think that's, people know it for sounding like that, and I don't feel like I need to touch that one. And then Volume 1 could certainly use the same treatment, but I don't think I'm going to, just because it would be a little bit redundant for me for a couple of reasons. Because one, we already took one of those, because Volume 1 is 5 songs, Volume 2 is 5 songs,
Correct.
Volume 3 will be 5 songs also. So like, but Volume 1, one of those songs we already like completely re-recorded, like, so not just remixed,
Okay.
but like actually tracked a new version that's like longer, and we did that with the full band. So it's like, that one's got real drums, everything sounds better, also produced by Nick, and then that was the song Serpentine. And so
Yes.
it's kind of like, even if I took that old recording and remixed it, it would still sound a lot worse than the new one that we remade from scratch, because it's like, it was what, 6 years later, so like, I
Yeah.
think I'm a better singer now than I was 6 years ago. Like, just it's just not going to be as good. And then on top of that too, I actually plan on re-recording more songs from Volume 1 eventually too, like at least one or two. So like, when I eventually do some kind of full length or something, I'll definitely have my eye on Volume 1 for like, okay, let's take one of these old songs, spice it up a little bit, re-record it.
Yeah.
And I'd kind of rather do that than just remix it, because that's the difference too, is I think Volume 1, like, I don't consider the performance to be that good. Like, Volume 2, I'm like, okay, I played the parts pretty well. I wish the tones were better.
Yeah.
Volume 1 is like, oh, I should just retrack that stuff. So, and that's why I probably won't do it like that.
No, that makes sense, and I kind of funneled into the question I was going to ask, because you pretty much answered it. Was like, I was thinking in my head, I was like, oh well, since he retracked the first volume, do you think you're just going to retrack Volume 1 mostly?
You're like, wait, isn't one before two?
Is it what?
Like,
Yeah,
isn't that?
what? Yeah, like, yeah. That's what my brain was like. No, it
And
definitely
that's
was
a good question. I considered it for a while, so that's a pretty valid question. But I was like, no, I'll just do Volume 2 and then.
No,
That'll
that
be
makes
it.
that makes sense. And also, like, I feel like I said, I had gone back and listened to it, and in Volume 1 I was like, yeah, if he did, like, and I knew you did Serpentine too, and I was just like, if he just like retracked all of those like from Volume 1, I'd be like, that's dope. I would definitely be about that. But I didn't feel like 2, like, even listening back to it, I wasn't like, oh man, like, this mix sucks. You know what I mean? I was just like,
Sure.
it's solid. Like, I knew it wasn't like, and I also knew it was like you mix and mastered it, because it's on your Bandcamp. So I was like,
I did have that one mastered technically by somebody else. I feel
oh,
like I
did you?
should give him credit for that.
There you go.
But he did a good job with the master on the old version. Just
Yeah.
he was working with my mix, which was not great.
Yeah, so I feel like it's whatever you have, you work with. Do you feel like people, like you were mentioning earlier, you said that not a lot of people weren't giving you a lot of shit for like mixing or whatever. Do you feel like with some of your material, and I feel like you've become a lot more popular since the last time we talked, do you feel like people get on your case more about like mixing and mastering, or like how it sounds or whatever? Or people usually pretty chill? Because I know the style of music you do, like more of the progressive stuff, I feel like people can kind of be a little bit elitist,
Sure.
so in some sense. Walking on eggshells, because I'm not trying to offend anybody in the progressive music scene.
Name some names.
I'm not gonna name any names. I'm not that. This isn't the type of channel that you get names from. So I'm just saying, in general, do you feel like people come at you for like, oh, Kyle, the mix on this, it could be so much better. Like, you could raise, the volume by like 5 dBs or whatever. I don't know. I'm not a mixer master, so I can't. I could just be talking out my ass at this point. But do you feel like people get on your case for that sort of stuff?
Actually, no. I mean, people are chill for sure. I mean, you get, the YouTube comment once in a while or something, or maybe from Reddit, right?
Yeah.
But no, not really. But I do feel like if your mix isn't that good, I feel like, not that people will consciously like have a problem with it, but I feel like it could be low key holding it back a little bit, up to a certain point. Like, if your mix doesn't have to be perfect for people to like it, but there's kind of a threshold, I think, where it's
Sure.
like people will kind of judge you as like, oh, that's a band that sounds like a local band, or a band that sounds like a real band. And
Yeah, it's the difference
every,
between like a local and a professional. Like you would
yeah,
know, like, based off of, and I wasn't trying to cut your train of thought off, but like, there's a difference between like, and I totally get it. There's a difference between like having a band that knows what they're doing, like they're just like they know their sound, they know what they want, they know what their audience wants to hear, versus maybe like a band that's like, okay, they're starting out, like I'm not gonna knock them because the mix isn't that good. Maybe they didn't have a lot of money to, you know, do a good mix and master. Who knows? Maybe they mix and mastered it themselves. You know, I don't want to just judge anybody's music based off of that, because obviously it's the talent that lies, you know, whoever plays it, not like
Sure.
if somebody can mix and master it. Because it's like it's like a turd. Like the turd's not gonna be good if you just polish it. You know, it's just, you know, it's a turd. Like, you know, it's not good. Clearly.
Can I just use that as your review?
Yeah.
For it's like a turd. You
It's
can't
like
polish it.
just like a turd. Just Brandon, please. That.
I'm gonna run an ad on Facebook that's just you out of context saying that, like in front of like the Volume 2 re-release thing, just out of context.
Oh man, I
Brandon
feel
from
like
Audio Addiction says it's like a turd. You
it's
can't
like.
polish it.
Oh, I mean, I feel like. Well, first of all, I will totally allow you to meme me out, but for
Well,
sure.
yeah, and then next time somebody asks, "Does anybody ever complain about your mixes?" I'll be like, "Well, Brandon said it was like a turd,
Brandon
and
said
I
it
couldn't
was like a
polish
turd.
it."
He said
I'll
it's
call
just like
you out.
he's like, it's like polishing a turd, you know?
Yeah.
Oh man, Kyle, getting into some hot water with me. I don't know if I'm kind of regretting having you on now. No,
Damn.
I'm just kidding, man.
No,
But I feel like, yeah, I feel like it separates you from doing a better job. Like obviously everybody has different financial positions that they're in, but you know, you can tell if somebody's really, this is something they love. Like they're going to put a lot of more money into it. They're going to try to put more time into it, and they're going to, you know, you're going to be able to see the kind of like, you know, expectation of it when people release the music and stuff. And I had a chance to listen to the EP last night when you sent over, and I was just like, yeah, this is better. Like this
Yeah.
is like, it's like
That's
miles.
good. I'm glad.
I feel like it's better, and I feel like it's not because you just, you know, are going to take me out of context and, you know, is going to run me as an ad. So I feel like I have to give you the good props, but I do feel like it has like, there's just some, like you were saying about it, like the guitar tone, the drum tones, like everything about it just sounds like, it doesn't sound like, obviously it's familiar to me, but it also has like this newness to it that I'm like, wow, this, like there's something about it that just took it a little bit more, like you're like, oh, this is like, you know, this could be seen as professional music. Not to say that Volume 1 wasn't professional. It's just
It
like,
wasn't. But
it's the next step, you know.
sure. Well, and honestly, another reason for me to do that too is just the fact that like I do still like the old songs, and it's kind of an excuse to re-release it. Also, you know, like I do think it legitimately does sound a lot better, and I think that, you know, is enough reason for it to exist. But also, I'm like, well, you know, it's kind of the 5-year anniversary of the album. I'm like, what if I could take these old songs that I still like and be like, hey guys, remember those old songs? Well, now they're new, kind of, you know, so check it out again.
Yeah.
And then just for myself too, that like now when I listen to that, I don't have to think like, oh, I wish this sounded a little bit better. I wish, you know, I got the drums punchier, and I wish I changed this. I'm like, okay, now it's just how I wanted it to be. So.
Do you feel like you're like hard? Do you feel like you're purposefully hard on yourself because of those? Like, because you went, like you said, you have the new mix and master for Volume 2. So did you feel like when you were listening to Volume 2, like the original that you mix, do you feel like you're like, like I'm like you were purposefully being hard on yourself? You're like, I don't know, like this does need to be mixed and mastered. Did you just, or were you like? Basically my question is like, did you ever feel like you were like teetering on the idea of like remixing and remastering it, or were you just like, no, this needs to be remixed and remastered because, you know, somebody else is better and can do a better job than I can?
Sure. Yeah, I guess I did kind of teeter on it for a while. Like, you know, I thought maybe it was one of those ideas that you come up with one night and then the next day you're like, nah, it's not worth the time.
Yeah.
You know, I went back and forth on that a little bit. But I think what made me do it now too is that, I mean, one, it's the 5-year anniversary, but also like, it's just the fact that when you listen to that compared to our newer stuff that Nick did produce, I'm like, this sounds so much better. You know, it's like, it's almost like, you know, that just next to the new stuff makes the old stuff look bad, you know, because like on its own, it's like, yeah, this mix sounds okay. But then you hear the newer stuff that he did and you're like, okay, this sounds way better. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, let's, you know, now I feel like we have to level up the old
yourself.
stuff a little
You have
bit.
to prove yourself.
Yeah. Or
Um,
I don't know if it's proving myself or giving up on myself of being like, Nick, I'll just pay you to do it. I don't want to figure it out. Just you
you're
do
just
it.
gonna stand up there and you're just gonna have like a backtrack play, and it's just gonna play through your speakers, and
I
you
would
know,
love that, man.
people are just gonna be like, Kyle's not even touching the guitar and is just making sounds and stuff, and then he's singing, the mic's right in front of him, he's not doing anything. He's like a
I
god
don't
or
even want
something.
to be there. Maybe I could just hire like somebody to even play my part, so I'm not even on stage. I'm like, okay, you guys are all session musicians. All of you go play the songs.
You're
I'm
gonna
gonna
like you're
like
gonna like holograph Tupac yourself. You're gonna like beam
exactly,
yourself
yeah.
onto the stage. You're like, and welcoming Kyle from Archaeologist, and then it just like it just beams you in. Yeah.
Exactly. That way I can just like chill on the side of the stage and play Smash Bros. And then everybody wins.
They're like, yo, and then the best part, it would just come full circle if some guy's like, yo, dude. Hey, dude. You know who's playing on stage and he like taps on your shoulder? He's like, yeah, that's me.
Da, da, da.
You like that meme where that guy has all that like fireworks, whatever.
Oh yeah, that's like it's like Tim and Eric or something.
Tim and Eric. I'll put
Yeah.
I'll post it on the screen. Anyway,
Yeah. I
next
know which one you
question.
mean.
Kyle knew what I meant just in this moment. It's just us two, so that we don't have an audience. But the next thing, Kyle, obviously got to speak about the newer stuff. You kind of hinted at a new record. What can you tell us about that so far? Because you have. I feel like you're like Marvel. You have your phases. You have the Kyle phases. We're in phase 1 of Archaeologist, and then we're gonna move into. You're gonna have like an Infinity War-esque saga. And then you're gonna move on into phase 2. I feel like that's. I don't know who you're gonna battle, but that's.
I feel like that's a way cooler way of looking at it than just like the truth of me being kind of like all over the place in terms of what I want to do. Because sometimes I feel like I wish I had a little bit more focus with the project in terms of like when I look at bands that just have like a band that's been out for 20 years and it's like they made an album and another album, and they're all cohesive and all these just perfect full lengths. Well, I feel like I kind of do a lot of different stuff. I'm like, what if I do this and then this other thing and then this? But I like your way of looking at that though, where it's like all different phases of the whole
There you go.
Archaeologist universe.
Listen, I already said you can't polish. You can polish a turd, so I gotta make up for it.
Sure. But yeah, I haven't talked about too much of the new stuff, but I don't mind spoiling some of it here. So there's it's subject to change, but I think I'm going to release a total of 3 things this year. So first is the Volume 2 remix and remaster is definitely coming out. That's going to be next month on the 21st of August. And after that, I think I'm going to release like so that's one thing too, is all the stuff I'm releasing this year is kind of based on old material in different ways. So like one is that Volume 2 remix, obviously that's old music. Then I think I'm going to release a collection of like unreleased demos and kind of rare tracks and outtakes and things like that. Like I have a couple of collaborations that I've never shared online. Like they don't sound amazing, but it's like, just stuff that kind of sits on my iTunes that I'm like, I'm not going to use this on an official album, but I'm like, it's still kind of cool, maybe something like extra for people to listen to. And I have like a handful of demo tracks like that. So I have a compilation of like 15 songs that'll be kind of an extra bonus album, probably just like a Bandcamp exclusive kind of thing.
Sure.
But some of it is technically old stuff from my SoundCloud. Maybe a couple people have heard. Other stuff is completely unreleased, so it's kind of that'll be something. And then I made another. So a couple years ago, I did like an 8-bit remix EP of my songs, where I took like instrumentals of a handful of songs from various albums, and then made these like 8-bit versions of them in Logic by making all my own 8-bit synths and everything, kind of building it from scratch.
Sure.
And basically there's a sequel to that. And so it's like more 8-bit tracks, new stuff. So again, it's like the music is new, but it's based on existing songs.
There we go.
And so that's a couple of things that are definitely coming out this year. I don't want to spoil the dates yet, but that's all planned. And then beyond that, there are a couple things. So there's we're talking about the Volume 2 remake right now. There definitely will be a Volume 3 that I'm planning for next year. That I've been working on that for like almost a year already. Kind of on and off with these other projects too.
Yeah.
But it's like I have instrumentals for that album completely written and almost done being tracked. I have to like record bass and then the instrumentals are done. Then I have to write more vocals for that. But like volume three will be a thing for sure next year. And yeah, I guess the a couple other things actually. There's I have a couple of songs set aside for what might be a full length at some point. Basically, we were last year we were planning to do a split EP with one of our friends' bands called Dokaway. They're like our good buddies, and we shared a drummer at the time. And we're like, okay, let's each do two songs each for a split EP.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the plan. But then other stuff happened on there, and that band actually broke up. They're kind of in other projects now. But I had already made my two songs for the split, and so I'm like, okay, well I have these two songs that I like. They don't really fit on anything else I'm releasing in terms of like they sound way different from Volume 3, and I don't want to just throw them on the demos collection because it's like new songs that I like more than these old demos,
Yeah.
Yeah. But so I have these two songs for that. It's like I recorded all my parts, and the songs are basically done. But I don't know if I'll put those out as singles or something, or maybe just save them like for a full length. But that's kind of its own thing. And then I know this is a very long answer.
This is great. I love it, Kyle. Tell me all about your great Marvel plan.
And then the very, very last thing that exists right now that I'm working on is this was something that was more spontaneous, and I didn't plan on doing it all until very recently. But there's something I put out actually just like a week or two ago where it's like these short instrumental tracks that are all between like a minute or two long.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that happened is because I made some upgrades to my recording setup recently. I got some new software, built a new like mix template from scratch, just kind of improved my entire workflow, which is something I should have done years ago. And I'm like, oh wow, like suddenly I have this Logic setup that I could have done before, but I just never did. And I'm like, everything is set up and ready to go. I can like sit down, write something, record it right away, and then have a song done in like a couple hours if it's like something, if I can manage to do it quickly.
Quick, yeah.
And so I did that as a test. I'm like, okay, let's just sit down and see if I can come up with something, and it worked pretty well. And like the mix on this new setup I've got is like better than what I've mixed myself before in the past for sure. And I'm like, well, that was kind of cool. Made a song like, in one day, which normally is not my process, because normally I'll write stuff in Guitar Pro. I'll spend like weeks kind of like just brainstorming different riffs and then putting them together and then writing out the tabs and then recording it after everything is already set in stone. And that's why it takes me a while to make a lot of my stuff.
Yeah.
But I made a song in a day, and I'm like, that was way more fun, and it's like, it's not the most complicated music, but I'm like, it still sounds like my stuff, and it sounds pretty good. And so I did more of those basically, and after I did a couple of those in a row, I challenged myself to make 5 songs like that in 5 days, just in terms of like just sitting down, just trying to be really spontaneous with it, like just, okay, have one idea that I like, okay, record it, and then on to the next little idea, and just try to, do it fast. And so, now I have these 5, I don't know if you call them demos or what, but these short instrumental songs that I'm actually pretty happy with, and I'm like, I was like, at first, these can go just, in the archives and maybe be turned into a real song someday.
Yeah.
But after making those, I'm like, these sound pretty good, actually. Like, I feel like maybe I could just release these how they are.
Yeah.
So I put those on Bandcamp, just like these 5 spontaneous tracks. The mixes are a little bit rough, but they sound okay.
Yeah, yeah.
But basically, what I'm getting at is that I plan on doing more stuff like that. And I'm thinking right now I might make a collection of short tracks like that, where the idea is an album with a lot of songs, but they're all like, 1 or 2 minute long, instrumentals, with the idea that it's all kind of spontaneous, reckless kind of process, But if I can manage to do that and be happy with it, then maybe around the end of this year or something, I'll have like, I don't know what exactly, but I guess I would call it an album, but it's kind of a different format,
Yeah, I know that when you were saying that, I was like trying to rack my brain, because I know there's another band that did it, and I have it now. It's Silverstein did like an EP or an album, and it's called like Short Songs, and they're all like a minute or two long, like punk songs, and I feel like I'm gonna get a lot of hate for that, calling it a punk song. But anyway, I feel like that's kind of in the same vein, and it's always really cool to do that, because I know I challenge myself whenever I have the time to pick up a guitar and play. I'm like, this is fun. Just to just sit down, write something. I'll literally just like record it on my phone and just get like the phone audio. I don't give a shit. Like it's just fun, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting, and I'm excited to listen to the rest of them because I did check out like most of them, and I was just
Cool.
like, this
Nice.
is dope. I'm like, this is like, because it's like you said, it has that archaeologist feel to it, but it's not like so confined where you're just like I'm like some of the songs that you've written and that I've done a review of Odysseys a while ago. I was just like, must spend an ungodly amount of time just like writing it. He must tab it out. He must do all of this stuff. Like he must spend a lot of time like really like perfecting it and like doing it right, you know? And so I felt like with this sort of stuff, I was like, I feel like Kyle's just like letting loose, you know? He's in the quarantine zone, so he's just like, I don't know, who gives a shit, you know? I'm just gonna do whatever I want.
I'm losing my mind.
It's a Wild West, baby. But I
Well,
felt
thanks, man. Though. Yeah.
it's really cool and it's refreshing to see that, and I hope a lot of other people take up this challenge because I think it's not that it's a challenge or anything, but you know, just in general, I think it's a really cool thing to just like come at it from like a different creative perspective than just like, okay, I can like sit down and write it down like on a piece of paper and be like, okay, like this is where this goes and this is where this goes and this is where, you know,
Yeah.
like where you're so meticulous about how things go versus you're just like, I'm just gonna turn my amp on and I'm gonna play something, and if I like it, cool. Or I'm sitting at my computer desk and I'm just gonna load up my DAW and load up some like plugins or whatever, and I'm just gonna mess around, and whatever comes out comes out. You know, I think we hopefully other people take up that, you know, sort of mentality, because I feel like sometimes, especially, I'm not trying to hate on progressive music, but sometimes it can be a little bit just like so cut and dry. Like you know they spend
Sure.
so much time writing this that you're just like, could you just like chill? Like could you write a song where you just like not do this and you could just like just have fun, you know? Not to say
Yeah.
they don't have fun,
But it,
but
it
just
is more fun to do it that
yeah,
way sometimes, though. So I mean, I agree with you there for sure.
it feels like a little rigid. So, you know, loosen up. I know
Yeah.
Kyle's done it already. Kyle's letting his hair, I don't know if he's letting his hair grow out because of quarantine, but you know, he's gonna have like hair down to here next time I talk to him. But that's cool. I really appreciate the ambitious nature you have about doing this. I like jokingly said the Marvel thing, but I genuinely feel that that was an accurate representation of what you're trying to do, because Jesus, man, you got a lot of
It's
stuff going on.
it's I guess so. Yeah. It's more just the fact that like I end up wanting to do a lot of different things. Like it's not that I'm like I'm gonna work on six different things because I'm a robot and I can do everything at once. It's just more that like, you know, I like I said, I actually wish I was a bit more focused sometimes with like I imagine it has to be kind of like if somebody wanted to take the time to go on my Spotify and listen to all the Archaeologist music, like it's got to be a little bit confusing, right? Like when you jump around from like, oh, this band has vocals. Oh wait, no, they don't. Oh wait, it's 8-bit music, and now it's like this and this,
That's true. You're right.
and
Yeah.
it's, you know, I feel like there's not that much of a consistent theme to it all necessarily, other than the fact that I was involved with all of it, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's just the fact that I can be kind of scatterbrained in terms of what direction I do want to go with things. But I think it's that combined with the fact that like the one credit I will give myself is that I feel like I do usually force myself to follow through with those ideas. You know, once I take it to a certain point, like if I've spent a couple days working on something, I'm like, okay, you know, this I could see myself finishing this eventually. I almost always do make sure that I finish it eventually. You know, it might take way longer. Like I remember when I did Odysseys, I was telling people the year before it came out, I was like, it'll be out next month. You know, it's like almost done. Like, you know, it'll be out now. And then the same thing happened with our latest release, Winter's Wake. Like it just everything takes way longer than I think it's going to, but I really do try to at least make sure that like I stick with it enough to get it done eventually. And that's kind of what's happening now, where it's like, you know, these technically 6 different kind of things I have going on have been started at different times. Some of them, you know, I worked on last year and haven't touched since, but it's like, I'm like, okay, I just got to get these done one at a time, and eventually they'll come out.
That's I mean, like I said, it's really impressive, and I mean personally for myself, I don't consider it scatterbrain. I would say maybe more so like I think it's ambitious more so than anything. I don't really feel like it's just like, oh yeah, it's like Kyle's just being scatterbrained. He's just like, I don't know if I want vocals. I'm just doing an instrumental record. Then I'm gonna do video game music. Then I'm gonna do a polka record. You know, like it's
Let
not
me
like
write that down.
that's a great idea. But I genuinely feel like every little like you said, there's kind of like a tinge of Kyle, throughout all of the different kind of entities of archaeologists. But at the same point, like, I think it's impressive to me because it's just a creatively liberating thing where I could see, like, I can listen to like the 8-bit stuff and be like, this is impressive to me because like I love video games and I have a nostalgia towards that. And then I like listen to like, Winter's Wake and I'm just like, this is really sick. Like, but they're both on completely different ends of the spectrum, but I know it's made by the same person. So it's like impressive to see like the creative process from like maybe the 8-bit version to like, like something where you have vocals on it, where you have to like figure out like, how am I going to fit the vocals into this? Or it's like, oh, instrumentals, there's no voice in this one, so how am I going to utilize like lead guitars in this or whatever? And maybe it's just me because I've listened to music and I'm a nerd about it, and I just love kind of distinguishing between the many different identities of archaeologists. But it's like I said, as a musician as well, it's impressive to me to see you go from like something completely 180 from each other and still kind of have, somewhat of a collective sound per se.
Well, thanks, man. I mean, yeah, I feel like I do. I like it when artists do that too. I know that not everybody likes it when a band they like changes up their sound.
Sure, yeah.
But and I get that too. But I think it's cool when bands do jump around and experiment too. But
it's
depends.
like I guess maybe because I don't know if I'm in the minority or whatnot, but I always appreciate when bands do something different because, I don't want the same cookie cutter, album or EP 7 different times, It's just like I can go
Sure.
back and listen to that one record that I loved, like when they first did it, And as they get older, it's like, you even think about bands that have more of a legacy, you figure they're not going to like they want to change it up. Like you're not gonna like some people are gonna say like, oh, they love this version of this band, or then they have new stuff and you're just like, maybe other people like that version of the band, and it doesn't mean that your opinion's less than someone else's. It's just like you both came at like,
no, man, you're wrong. You're wrong.
Man, you suck. But it's like you both came at 2 different points in the band's life cycle. So like obviously their first record is gonna be most likely, and I'm not gonna generalize for everybody, but it's gonna be different. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
somebody's influences 10 years ago isn't going to be the same as it is today. Like unless you're writing like a lo-fi hip hop record or whatever. I don't know, some shit, because that doesn't change.
And if that's what that band wants to do, if that's what they feel like they should be doing at that time, then like that's what they should do, right? I mean, there's no obligation to
Yeah.
sound exactly like what you've sounded like before, So
Yeah.
I feel like I think most bands that do, I mean, I guess that there can be a thing where it's like, I guess a band can be like, okay, now we're going to be dubstep because that's the new trend and we're going to cash in on that. But with the exception of stuff like that, I feel like most of the time it's because an artist genuinely wants to get into different stuff. Like if you look at like Opeth, for example, where
Yeah.
everybody, a lot of old fans complain about the newer stuff not being heavy and being, pretty different vibes. It's like, I get why people would miss the old stuff, but also it's like it's so apparent that what they're doing now is like what they want to be doing. So
Yeah.
just let them do that the best they can. And I like all of their stuff. So
There we go.
You know.
Kyle's the man of the people, so just listen to whatever Kyle has to say. But the next question, Kyle, keeping it moving. What have you been listening to lately? What have you been jamming to? All during the quarantine time. Any fun band suggestions that you want to give
Dude,
to the people?
I can say a couple of things. I've been listening to nothing but the new Taylor Swift album since the moment it came out, and I've never listened to Taylor Swift before. Like maybe I had heard.
Oh, and ironically, like if you're like in a Target and you hear Taylor Swift come on, you're like, okay, that's
Yeah.
Taylor Swift, I know that, but like, not
Yeah, like,
actually.
I can
You don't
name-
put a Taylor Swift CD in your car and you're like, yeah, Taylor Swift, my favorite.
But now I do. That's the thing.
Oh God.
I think the new album is really, really good.
Okay, now I'm gonna have to check it out.
It's cool. It's like I feel like whether or not somebody's into like pop music, it's really well written songs and produced in cool ways too. Like I don't know. It has the qualities that I like when I like about pop. When I do like pop music, there are certain things that I like about it, and this has all of that. Which is like the songs are like good and catchy and sound nice, but on top of that, there's a lot of cool details in the background and stuff too, in terms of like the production and kind of these soundscapes they build on it. It's like a very I don't know. It's a really, really good sounding album in terms of the production and the details and the balance and just the variation throughout it. On top of it being like catchy pop songs that are
Yeah,
like, that are immediately accessible in that sense.
you like
But
an
yeah, I
earworm.
don't know. Yeah. No, but I actually like that album a lot. And the album cover looks like it's a black metal band too. I don't know if you've seen it, but
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah. I think there was some sort of article about that some like unironically there was some black metal artist that was like, this looks eerily familiar to a record I've taken. I'm like, literally any black metal band's album cover looks like that at some
yeah, like you
point.
stood
So
by trees in a forest.
yeah,
Oh,
ooh, big deal.
yeah.
Sorry, we've offended all two people who are black metal fans that are checking out this interview. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, that's interesting. I
But yeah,
feel like
that's
I feel like somebody was eventually gonna give me that answer, but I was not expecting you to give me that answer. So
I know a lot of my Facebook friends have been jamming it too. The general consensus seems to be like people are like, all right, Taylor Swift, all right, maybe,
maybe I hate
not,
you a
not
little
bad,
bit
Taylor
less.
Swift.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, and then actually I can say the last new album I've really enjoyed, because that's been like the last couple of days for me listening to that.
Sure.
The last album I got really into was by 100 Gex. Have you heard of
Oh
them?
yeah, I've heard of 100 X.
They're
Yeah.
they're like a weird, obnoxious, like I guess pop band. I don't know what you'd call it exactly.
I
It
know
has
what you're talking
literally
about. Yeah.
it has literally none of the qualities that I normally enjoy in music. Like literally not one. I'm like
That should be
sound.
their write up. You should be doing. They should take that cut out of your clip and cut it out of context and be like, that's literally 100% of the qualities I don't like in their music. It's like Kyle from Archaeologist. Anyway.
Well, I'm sure they know that they make kind of like confusing and abrasive
Sure.
music.
Yeah.
And honestly, that one I can't even fully explain why I like it so much. And the first time I heard it too, I was like not into it, like not at
You're
all.
like,
But then
ew. Yeah.
But then it got stuck in my head, and then I go back to it and I'm like, man, this song sucks. Play it again. I honestly don't listen to any other band that sounds remotely like that. And I don't know why, but that album just stuck with me. I'm like, it has parts that are just like annoyingly catchy, and then it has parts that are really weird to contrast that, and then just stuff where it's like, it's weird enough to make me think that they're self-aware when they are
They have to be.
being like annoying. I guess I don't even want to call it annoying because I do genuinely like the music a lot. I think it's like I think they write good songs and then they make them sound really weird and like bad in a way where it's like like an obnoxious amount of distortion on everything.
Yeah.
Everything sounds like it's all messed up, but you're like actually like these details are kind of cool and like the arrangements are actually kind of clever in a way. But at first you're just like, what the hell are these
Yeah.
high pitched auto tune vocals?
That's awesome. I'm gonna.
And they seem to have that effect on people too. That's another thing where it's like a lot of people hate them at first, and then then you just go back to it for some reason.
Well, I'll give a story about 100 Gex. Shout outs to my friend Adam of the band Sauce because
I gotta say that's actually why I checked them out too.
Yes.
Was because of seeing Adam post stuff about them.
I love
and
Adam.
about his
Juicy
guitar on their
boy.
remix song and stuff. So.
Yeah, he's the man. Adam, you and Kyle should collaborate. I don't know if that's in the works or whatever, but I know Adam watches my stuff, so I'm gonna definitely tag Adam and be like, collab with Kyle. I demand it.
I'm down. Yeah.
But that was the reason because he was on the track, and then it also had like Craig Owens and like Fall Out Boy on it, and I was just like, I'll give it a listen because I used to like these bands. And I was like. And I had heard of them before that point, but I was just like, I totally get your sentiment of like, when I first listened to him, I was like, because he did the guitar part, and I was like, this is dope. Like, this is very cool. I like it. Like, I don't know if their sound is going to sound exactly like that, but I'm just going to go dive into it and listen to it. And I listened to it, and I was just like, this is like. I wasn't even expecting this. Like, this is totally different from what I originally thought going in. What it was,
and that track was exactly my introduction to the band too. So
Yeah.
I heard that remix song, and I was like, okay, I don't know what this is, and I'm like, I guess I'll check out the original one just because now I'm curious what that sounds like because this remix was so confusing, And so then I listened to the original one, and I was like, it's okay, I guess. I don't know, like maybe this one part's like kind of cool or whatever, but it just got stuck in my head. And then I went back to it, and like I realized I'm like, this is a great song. They just produced it in like the most confusing way possible. Where it's and actually that song is one of the less abrasive ones on the album, I would
Yeah,
say.
no, I would agree. Yeah, because
But
I went and listened to the old like the original record, and I was just like, yeah, this is like way more abrasive than I thought it was gonna be. Like not, and I've listened to it many times, and I feel like I'm like, I feel like if I listen to it a couple more times, that I will morph into a 100 Gex fan.
it's not a choice, you know.
It's not a choice. It's good. It's a life. It's a religion. But I felt like it's like you said. Greg grows on you in a just very strange and odd way. Like you're like listen to it and you're just like, who would really like this? Like the first time you listen to it, then you listen to it for the second time, and you're just like, I could see why someone would like this. And then by the third time, you're like, okay,
That's
there's something there, and then the fourth time's like, okay, this is really growing on me, and by the fifth time you're like a 100 Gex fan pretty much.
Yeah.
That's your religion. Like if you had to choose your tab on Facebook as religious views, it'd just be 100 Gex.
Right.
So I feel like
they write really good catchy songs, and then they just it's just hard to listen to the first couple times. It's just not what you're used to hearing.
Well, if you liked our recommendation of 100 Gex, guys, let us know in the comments if you should check them out, and let us know what you think about 100 Gex, and if they're a religious thing you can be a part of it. But
then I guess what last one is on a more normal note. I really like the new Protest the Hero album. I feel like that's less of a surprise for people that listen to the genre that I generally make stuff in. But I did enjoy that album a lot.
I knew it kind of flew under the radar for me, and now I have to go back. I saw somebody post about it. I like went on like a long trip to go visit my family, and somebody had recommended that to me, but I was like already home at that point. And I was like, I should listen to this, and I didn't do it. So now I got to go listen to it because I hear it's very good. So and
yeah,
plus Protest is just great.
Yeah, they've always been one of my favorite bands, and the new one I'll say that took me a couple listens. Also, like the first couple times, I'm like, yeah, it sounds okay. It's kind of standard Protest the Hero now. I'm like,
yeah.
Maybe it's not as good as some of their old stuff, but it's pretty good. But after listening to it more, it's like I think once I kind of let go of my expectations of wanting it to sound more like maybe a couple albums ago.
Yeah.
I think it's actually one of their best. I think it's like maybe their second or third best album, and it's just they've changed their style a little bit, but again, it's just really good songwriting, and like especially if you're not looking through the lens of like the exact things you liked about their old music, there's a lot to like about the new music too.
Yeah, I haven't I wouldn't say I'm a religious fan. I've seen them countless times, but I'm not like, a diehard Protest the Hero fan. But, anytime they put out a new record, I like genuinely try to go in and give it a listen because, I like what they do. I think they're solid musicians, definitely, amongst some of the most underrated bands in the scene for sure. So I'll have to go give it a listen and let you guys know what I think. But I think it's got to be good. Like anything, like I said, anything that they've done is all solid to me. But the next question, Kyle, getting into some new fun questions. If there was one album you wish that you wrote, what album would it be?
I feel like those questions are always hard because I'm like, right away I can think of a couple, and I'm like, but which one is like the most? Which one is the most?
Yeah. Which is the most Kyle answer? Yeah.
That I wish I had written. I feel like I'm gonna have a really great answer for this as soon as we get off this call.
Don't worry. If you want, I'll put text on the screen if you remember a good one.
No, I can think.
Okay.
I'm just gonna throw one out there. It's again, just one that comes to mind. Maybe like Traced in Air by Cynic. I like that album a lot. There's a lot. I don't know. I feel like we've got pretty similar tastes in terms of like what I want my music to be like. Mm-hmm. In terms of it being like, it's got like the heavy technical side, but it's also very like I think beautiful melodic kind of music. And it manages to do those things at the same time really well. Where it's not like, oh, there's heavy parts and then there's melodic parts. It's like it's kind of always a mix of both. Just with a very unique kind of sound to all of it too. That's just an album I can go back to, a million times and never get tired of. So that's one album that definitely qualifies, like top level of that for me.
Top Kyle answer. Well, if you remember another good one, we'll just throw it up on the screen now at this point.
Sure.
But the next question, Kyle, another hard one, I'm sure. If you were to compile a musical supergroup, who would be in your band?
I feel like that one's tricky too for a different reason. because I feel like for something like that, you actually don't want to throw all of your favorite songwriters into one group together.
That's true.
Because, because most of my
Kyle's
favorite,
thinking. Kyle's thinking. I like this. Okay, he's gonna give
yeah.
me a really good answer then. I know.
Because honestly, it's like I feel like the inclination is to be like, what if we took the best guitarist in the world and the best drummer and the best singer and like my favorite people from all these bands and made them all jam together? You know, like you have these. It's like, what if Tosin Abasi played with Guthrie Govan and then he also played with like every other guitarist? You know, it's kind of just too much. It's like I think a lot of the musicians that I consider like my favorites that I look up to, they kind of are like the force in their band, you know, and it's like if they had to compromise that vision with other people at the same time, even if they have great ideas, it's like just let them do their own thing in their own space, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like I wouldn't want to throw all of my favorite musicians into one band, especially with me, because first of all, it's like, what am I doing there? You know, I'll have like the maracas in the back
Yeah.
or something.
Or you're like, I'll go get you coffee if you want, or whatever you drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, let me backtrack again. So the question was the question who would I collaborate with, or who would I put like just in their own band together?
No, the question is if you obviously you are the front man, you can either do vocals, guitar, or vocals and guitar, because I know you do both of those things, and then you were to replace, you were supposed to add in like another guitar player, another bass player, another drummer, or if you don't want to do vocals and you just want to do guitar, who would replace you on the vocals?
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So in that case, if I had whatever musicians I wanted at my disposal,
Yeah,
I would
anybody.
probably drop the guitar live, and I would probably just do vocals. And
Interesting.
then I
Okay.
think I would want two guitarists, a bassist, and a drummer. And I don't know, just I guess people that like understand the music, know it well, take the time to know it, and then are just cool to hang out with. You know, that's the qualifications, I guess. Because honestly, I don't feel like I need the very best guitarist in the world or the very best whatever. Um, I don't know. I guess that's kind of a non-answer too. But I feel like I wouldn't go for like, if this is a hypothetical thing, I feel like I wouldn't even go for like the biggest like top level celebrity musicians. I would just be like, that guy's cool, and he likes the same music as I do, and he like can hang with the music. So let's get that guy.
There we go. Kyle
I don't
expertly
know.
evaded the question. I don't even know how I'm gonna answer that because he's evaded it so well. He's just like, I just want to have people that like my music and like want to play it live. So
Yeah.
if you are one of those people, message Kyle somewhere on social media when he decides to put a band back together. And then obviously the last thing, Kyle, you kind of talked about your big grandiose plans for the rest of the year, but tell the people where they can find you at on social media. And you already talked about kind of what you did, but if you want to just, surmise it all, tell people what's going on.
Yeah, sure. So, again, I'm Kyle from Archaeologist. You can find our music pretty much everywhere. Like, I use Bandcamp as like, to me, that's kind of my main place where I usually direct people to, just because I like that on Bandcamp you can present everything the way you want, and it's easy to manage it. So yeah, I guess Bandcamp might be the best place to check it out, but we're also on Spotify, Apple Music, all that. The YouTube channel, if you search Archaeologist Band, it'll come up. And then I did just start a Twitch channel recently, so that's like my newest thing that I've barely started. And I'll be doing some like, I've just been messing around playing video games on there so far, but I will be doing like actual music-based streams too. Like if you follow archaeologist_band on Twitch, it's like I'll be doing one of those little short like songwriting sessions live. I'm gonna try something like that. Um, Maybe some live playthroughs or discussions, or I'm still coming up with ideas for that, but I'll definitely I'm planning to start being active on there as well.
There we go. Well, go check out Kyle's Twitch channel. I'll leave a link for that because I also recently joined Twitch and I haven't started anything yet, but don't you worry. By the time this comes out, I'll have some content there. But go check him out on Twitch. He will definitely be doing it. Also, Volume 2, the remix, will be out now, so go check it out when this interview is live, because you'll be able to check it out and be able to listen to it with your ear holes, and you'll get stoked
Or
on
whatever
it.
holes you
Or
want.
whatever. Okay, I'm definitely not. I'm not gonna.
Cut that out. Cut that part out.
But go check out Kyle's stuff. I'll leave all the links to his social media handles. Make sure to give him a follow. Go follow him on Spotify. And more importantly, go support him musically. I still have the Archaeologist shirt. By the way, I want to, since I haven't had you on in a minute, I want to give a brief story. So already know Kyle's love for Cheez-Its, right? So I picked up his record, Odysseys, and I literally had your Cheez-It in that plastic bag for fucking 2 years in my house, and I had gotten it, and I was packing away all my stuff, and I was just like, why do I have a Cheez-It in the bag? And then I like remembered, I was like, Kyle gave that to me because I bought the shirt and I had the poster, and I still have the shirt. It's actually in my room, and I probably can grab it after this, but yeah, I have all of it, and my sister triple dog dared me to eat the stale Cheez-It. So I ate the stale Cheez-It, and by far that was one of the worst things I've ever eaten in my entire life. So just for forewarning, if Kyle sends you a Cheez-It in the mail, it's probably got anthrax on it, or just eat it then. Don't be like me and be like, oh, you probably won't eat it because you're a baby. And I was like, nah, I ain't no baby. I'm gonna eat that Cheez-It, and I ate it, and it was one of the worst things I've ever done in my entire life. So don't eat the Cheez-It. Don't eat the Cheez-It if it's over 2 years old, because that's disgusting.
I love that story because I always wonder if people are going to eat them or not.
I did. It was a very poor mistake on my half. I just want to say, I'll look directly in the camera. Please do not eat the Cheez-It that Kyle gives you years later. It's not funny. You might get ill. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, so don't.
Well, you know what? You did it for science. You know, it was an experiment, and I'm sure your sacrifice has, advanced Cheez-It research by several years.
Yeah,
so now,
I lost 6 months of my life, Kyle, so it's okay. I wouldn't say
I'll send you a new one, man. Next time, let me know if you need a new Cheez-It. I'll get you a fresh one.
I don't need a fresh Cheez-It. I think I have
You're like, never again.
I have PTSD about Cheez-Its now. But the Cheez-Its, if you're watching this, please sponsor Kyle. I'm on the road to getting everybody the sponsorships that they want. So make sure to go tweet at Cheez-Its if you want Kyle to get sponsored. I'm trying to use all of my audio addiction cloud to get at least one person that I know and love a sponsor. So go give Kyle the sponsorship.
I appreciate
They're
it.
not going to sponsor me because I ate a 2-year-old Cheez-It, but they'll sponsor.
Well, now you're
me
trash talking them in your interview too.
Yeah, I am. But I'm pretty sure they would also be like, yeah, you're an idiot for eating a 2-year-old Cheez-It. So, granted.
There's a reason we put that expiration date on the box, bro.
Checkmate. You're right, definitely. But Schweppes, if you'd like to sponsor me, I drink your seltzer water all the time. So, low key if you want to do that. But go check Kyle's stuff. We went on a Cheez-It tangent, but please go check out Kyle's stuff. Seriously, I know he's worked very hard, and he's got a lot of really cool stuff coming up, as he had mentioned earlier. And I'm excited to listen to all of it because I think it's very interesting to me as a reviewer and doing all that sort of stuff. And you can expect a review of Volume 2 where I may or may not compare and contrast new versus old. So we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll do it on Twitch. Maybe you'll check it out. Maybe you might not. I don't know. I'm no musical expert here. I'll just be like, wow, it sounds exactly the same. No, I'm sure it's better. I want to give Kyle's producer a hard time for saying that his mixes sound just like Kyle's mixes, because I don't know. I don't know if that's a low bar or a high bar to set. Whatever, we'll find out. But go check out Kyle's stuff, and thanks, of course, to Kyle from Archaeologist for coming on tonight, man.
Well, thank you, man. It's fun being back. Like you said, it's been a while. So, it's good catching up with you, and I appreciate you having me on.
Let's not make it 2 years next time, or
Sounds
longer.
good.
We're gonna in a decade, right?
Right.
Hey guys, we're back here. Kyle and I didn't want to stop talking, but we figured we'd offer you guys a quick little FAQ just in case you've been an Archaeologist fan for like a long time. I still have the Archaeologist shirt as my lights blare out. The design and everything. But I figured let people know, what's going on with this shirt. I told Kyle off camera that I had been getting a lot of questions on, what said character this is, on that on the screen you can see, so Kyle is going to try to answer every question that I have to throw at him, about said shirt. So, Kyle, if you're down to answer, I'm gonna ask you some real important real important questions for
Hit me.
people who have been longtime archaeologist fans. So, obviously, the first and main question is, who is the guy that is playing the guitar on here? What's his name?
So yeah, he's not a guy. He's a dinosaur.
Oh, a dinosaur. Okay, sorry.
And
That's
I
question
believe
number one. Question number one, he's a dinosaur. Okay. So now we're on to question number two, which is, what is his name?
I believe his name is Terrence.
Terrence? Okay. Does he
Yeah.
have a last
You could
name?
ask him, but I think that's his name. His last name is Cleveland.
Terrence Cleveland? Okay.
Yeah.
And then he has this bird too. So does the bird have a name, or is this just
Yeah,
bird?
that's Rebecca.
Rebecca? Okay, so
Yeah.
Did Rebecca have a last name or no?
No,
Okay,
she's just a bird.
She's just a bird. You're true.
She doesn't
Right.
even know that that's her name. She's just a bird.
I mean, she's just singing a note, so I feel like she might not even be able to speak English. So
Right. No.
yeah,
No, she can't.
she's gonna get deported after this. Anyway, also we have to ask.
Back to Bird World.
Back to Bird World. Yvette Young will not be very happy about that. But we have a guitar here. In your best estimate, what type of guitar would you say this is?
That's an Ibanez for sure.
An Ibanez for sure.
You can tell because of the strings.
Okay, so it seems to me like it's a 9-string. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so I haven't
Yeah,
really.
but some of them are on the back. That's why you can't see them all.
That's true. That's true. I have to ask: is Terrence a genter?
No.
He's not a genter.
No, he existed way before gent was invented. So
that's true.
This was like 2015, like BC, I think. So back when dinosaurs still ruled the music scene.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So he also has an amp, which I find pretty impressive because if he's a dinosaur and he lived in BC times, electricity didn't exist. So.
Right.
It
runs on fire.
It runs on
wheels.
fire. Oh, that's true.
That's how they invented
there's
that.
a little bit of sparks coming out of it, so that would make sense.
Yeah.
Do you know what type of amp this is, or no?
I actually do, and that one I have a real answer for that. So that is it says Vox on it because I had a little practice amp for like years. My only amp was a little Vox practice amp with a V.
Ah, yes.
And my girlfriend drew that, and she just modeled it off of my little Vox practice amp. But she's like, I don't want it to say the brand, so I'll say Vox instead. So I actually have a legitimate answer for that question.
Wow, you're saying that your other answers for these questions aren't legitimate?
I meant also legitimate on top of all the other legitimate answers.
Fair enough. Also, he is not standing perfectly straight, as you can tell. He is he's kind of leaning. So is that a personal choice or is...
Yeah, I can explain that. Yeah, that's because the world is actually flat, but it's slightly tilted, and that's why he's leaning.
So he's a flat earther.
Yeah.
Is that what you're telling me?
But it's flat in the sense that it's two-dimensional, but it's technically tilted. So
so he's on
that's what Terrence believes.
Terrence believes. Okay.
He requested that he be slightly tilted on the shirt to reflect that belief.
And also, he's also flat. He's also flat on the shirt. So can you explain why he's not 3-dimensional?
Yes. No more questions. He knows too much.
He knows too much, and then just close out the screen.